The sky was dark, filled with black clouds that growled like angry beasts. Rain fell hard over the jungle, making every leaf shine like glass. Jack, a young human soldier, crawled through the wet ground. His leg bleeding, he had been ambushed. And now he was alone, cold, and hunted. He heard voices, alien voices. Sharp and echoing through the trees, they were searching for him, scanning the area with glowing drones. Jack's breath came fast, his heart pounding like a drum. One wrong move, and they would find him. Suddenly, a strong hand grabbed his arm from behind. Before he could scream, he was pulled into a dark, narrow cave. A voice whispered in his ear, deep and urgent. "Stay still if you want to live." It was a female voice, but not human, inside the cave. It was pitch black, except for a faint blue glow. The glow came from the eyes of the person holding him, as his own eyes adjusted. Jack saw her clearly, a tall alien woman. She wore heavy armor, scarred and steaming from the rain. Her skin was smooth and shimmered like silver under the faint light. She was breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling fast. She looked strong. Deadly, but something in her face seemed worried. She peeked out of the cave, then turned to him again. "Do not move," she said sharply. "They are right outside." Jack nodded slowly, still confused who she was and why she helped him. The woman knelt near the cave mouth, watching the patrol go by. Red lights passed just inches away from their hiding spot. Jack held his breath, praying he wouldn't sneeze or move. The alien woman was still, like a statue, but sweat rolled down her temple. After long, painful minutes, the patrol moved on. Only then did she breathe out and sit back against the wall. Who are you?" Jack finally asked in a whisper. "I'm Vera," she replied, "a mercenary. Not with them." Jack raised his eyebrows. "You saved me. Why?" "I don't know yet," she said, not meeting his eyes. Rainwater dripped from her armor, forming a cold puddle below. Suddenly, her body shivered, and she cursed under her breath. "My suit's failing," she said. Pressing buttons on her chest plate, sparks flew out. Her heating system was fried. Jack could see she was in pain, her teeth clenched. She leaned against the wall and hugged herself, trying to stay warm. "I need to remove this," she muttered, "or it will freeze on my body." Then she looked at him sharply. Her cheeks flushed. "No peeking, human," she said with narrowed eyes. Jack quickly turned his head away. Facing the wall, he could hear the sound of metal plates unclipping and falling. Steam hissed in the air as the armor was pulled off. Vera struggled to remove the chest plate and shoulder guards. Her body was different, taller, with glowing lines on her skin. She wrapped herself in a blanket from her pack, but it was thin. Jack still didn't look, even when she groaned softly from the cold. "You're shivering," he said, still facing away. "I'm fine," she answered, her voice shaking. He took off his cloak and held it behind him without turning. She pulled it gently from his hand and wrapped it around herself. "Why are you alone out here?" she asked after a while. "Got separated from my team." Jack replied, "I thought I was done." Vera didn't respond for a moment, then said, "I don't like humans, usually. But you saved me," Jack said, confused. She looked down at her hands, silent. "I once spared a human boy when I was young." She whispered, "I was punished for that." She added, her voice bitter, "Maybe I don't want to watch another one die." Jack slowly turned his head halfway and caught a glimpse of her face. She looked tired, but strong, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dark. "Thank you," he said simply. Vera blinked, then looked away quickly. "You should rest," she muttered. Turning her back to him, he leaned against the wall, the pain in his leg growing worse. Outside, the storm raged on, lightning flashing across the sky. Inside the cave, silence grew between them, but something had begun. Something strange, something fragile, something that might just save them. Both, the cold didn't go away. Even inside the cave, the air felt like ice. Vera sat near the wall, hugging herself tightly. Jack stayed silent, watching her from the corner of his eye. She was wrapped in his cloak, but it wasn't enough. Her alien skin had strange glowing lines that dimmed when she got colder. She coughed softly, then groaned. "I hate this planet." Jack leaned closer, still keeping distance. "You need heat," he said. "I can try to start a fire." Vera looked at him, her eyes full of doubt. "There's no wood here, and smoke." "Will give us away." Jack nodded slowly, thinking hard. He looked at his emergency pack. There was a small heat patch inside. He pulled it out and handed it to her. "Stick this to your chest," he said. "It'll help." Vera raised an eyebrow, then took it as she peeled it open. Her hands shook. Humans and their strange tools. She whispered. She placed the patch on her body and gasped as it warmed her skin, her breathing slowed a little, her muscles relaxing. "You're not like the other mercenaries," Jack said quietly. Vera gave him a tired smile. "I never wanted to be a mercenary." She looked down at her hands, her fingers long and sharp. "I used to be a guard for a peace ship." Jack sat up straighter, surprised. "What happened?" he asked. Vera's face darkened. "My people betrayed me. They left me behind after a failed mission." Silence fell between them again. Only the sound of rain outside filled the air. Vera broke it by saying, "And what about you, soldier? How did you end up bleeding in my jungle?" Jack chuckled dryly. "My unit walked into an ambush. We thought we were chasing your kind, but we were the ones being hunted." Vera nodded slowly. "That sounds like my kind." She pulled the cloak tighter around herself. Her shoulders were still shaking. Jack took a risk and moved closer. "Here," he said. "Let me help." He sat beside her and shared his body heat. For a moment, Vera tensed, ready to push him away. But then she leaned closer, her head resting on his shoulder. "You're warm," she whispered. Jack smiled. "So are you." "A little." Vera closed her eyes for a few seconds. It was the first peaceful moment she had in months. She whispered, "I can't remember the last time I trusted anyone." Jack didn't answer, but he stayed close. The cave was still dark, but now felt less lonely. Vera looked at him again, this time with a strange softness. "You really didn't peek earlier." Jack turned red. "No, I swear." Vera laughed quietly. "Good." "Because I wasn't wearing much," she added, teasing a little. Jack shook his head. "You're lucky I'm a gentleman." She smiled for real now, showing her sharp teeth. But it wasn't a scary smile, which was warm. "You know," she said. "You're not like the other humans either," Jack replied. "Maybe we're both different from our people." She nodded, then looked out toward the jungle. "We can't stay here long," she said. "They'll search again." Jack agreed. "Do you know a way to the human base?" Vera hesitated, then said, "Yes, but it's dangerous." "Dangerous how?" Jack asked. "There are traps, scanners, and beasts," she said calmly. "But I can get you there if we move carefully." Jack looked at his leg, which was still bleeding. "I'll slow you down," he warned. Vera shook her head. "Then I'll carry you." Jack blinked. "Seriously?" She stood up and stretched, showing her tall frame. "I've carried bigger things than you," she said with a grin. "But I won't carry a man who complains." Jack laughed for the first time in hours. "I'll try to stay quiet, mercenary." Vera helped him to his feet. Careful with his wound, she picked up her armor pieces. "Now, dry but useless. We move at dawn," she said. "Stay close to me and don't do anything stupid." Jack nodded. "I'll follow your lead." She looked at him again, her eyes glowing softly. "Good," she said. "But remember, no peeking." Jack smirked. Wouldn't dream of it. And with that, the strange team prepared for what came next. The jungle was still wet from the storm. Fog covered the ground, and the trees stood like silent guards. Vera moved carefully through the thick vines, her sharp eyes scanning the path. Jack followed close behind, limping but trying not to slow her down. His leg hurt with every step, but he didn't complain. Vera had tied the wound with cloth and herbs, just enough to stop the bleeding. She looked over her shoulder often, making sure he was still walking. "Let me know if you need to rest," she said, her voice low. Jack shook his head. "I'll be fine." They walked in silence for a while, avoiding sensors hidden in trees. Vera held a small device that beeped softly whenever they got too close to danger. "The path ahead is narrow," she warned, "and watched by drones." Jack looked worried. "So what's the plan?" Vera stopped and turned to him. "We pretend I captured you." Jack blinked, confused. "Captured me?" She nodded. "If they think I'm delivering you as a prisoner, they won't question us." "I'm not sure I like that plan," Jack muttered. Vera smirked. "It's either that or stay in the jungle forever." Jack sighed. "Fine. How do we make it look real?" She pulled out a rope and held it up, hands in front. Jack hesitated, then put out his hands. Vera tied them loosely, just tight enough to look real. She stepped close and whispered, "If something goes wrong, run. Don't wait for me." Jack frowned. "I'm not leaving you behind." She looked into his eyes, surprised for a second, then nodded once. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." They moved again, this time slower. With Vera gripping Jack's arm tightly, she put on a cold, fierce expression as they approached the checkpoint. 3 alien guards stood by a glowing gate, weapons ready. Vera walked forward, dragging Jack beside her. One of the guards stepped up, his eyes scanning the pair. "Vera?" he said, shocked. "You're alive." Vera narrowed her eyes. "Of course I am. I caught this human crawling near our sensor grid," she said loudly. The guard looked at Jack and laughed. "Looks weak." Jack stayed quiet, lowering his head like a defeated prisoner. The second guard stepped closer. "Where were you all this time?" Vera growled. "Hunting, surviving, unlike you lazy fools." The guard seemed unsure, but didn't push further. Then came a voice from behind the guards, deep and cold. A tall alien officer walked out from a transport ship. He wore golden armor and had black markings on his face. His eyes were sharp, scanning Vera carefully. "You?" he said. "We thought you betrayed us." Vera held her ground. "I brought a human for questioning." The officer stepped closer, face inches from hers. "Why should we believe you now?" he asked quietly. Vera didn't blink. "Because I never fail my missions." The officer looked at Jack, then back at Vera. He leaned in and whispered, "If this is a trick, you'll die slow." Vera smirked. "You always talk too much." The officer stepped back and waved his hand. "Let them through," he said. The guards opened the gate and allowed them to pass. As soon as they were out of sight, Vera's grip softened. Jack let out a breath. He didn't realize he was holding. "That was close," he whispered. Vera nodded. "Too close." Jack glanced at her. "You really sold it, though." She smiled faintly. "I used to be good at lying." They moved deeper into the trees, heading toward the hills. Vera finally untied his hands, and Jack rubbed his wrists. "Where are we going now?" he asked. "To the cliffs." Vera replied, "There's an old human relay tower there. If we can power it, we can send a signal to your people." Jack looked up at the darkening sky. "Let's just hope someone hears it." Vera looked at him and said, "They will, because I'm not letting you die here." They stopped to rest near a fallen tree. Vera sat beside him, her hair wet from sweat. Jack watched her silently, then asked, "Were you scared back there?" She looked at him, then nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, "but not because of the guards." "Then what?" he asked. "I was scared you'd try to save me again," she whispered. Jack blinked, confused. "Isn't that what friends do?" Vera looked away. I've never had one. Jack reached out and touched her hand gently. Maybe it's time to start, he said. Vera didn't pull away. They sat quietly for a moment. The forest around them whispered with wind and rustling leaves. But inside the silence, something was changing. Trust. Growing slowly between two enemies who had no reason to care. But now they did. The sun had gone down. And the forest turned cold again. Shadows stretched across the ground like dark hands. Vera helped Jack climb a small hill, her strong arm around his back. His steps were slow now, and his face was pale. We're close, Vera said softly, but her voice was tense. She could feel his weight getting heavier. Jack didn't speak, just groaned quietly with each step. His wound was getting worse, and Vera knew it. They reached a flat rock near the top of the hill. Vera laid Jack down gently, brushing his wet hair back. You need rest, she said, pulling out her pack. Jack whispered, I feel dizzy. Vera frowned, then pulled the cloth off his leg. The wound was swollen and red, pulsing with heat. Her hands shook as she touched it. He had an infection. Bad enough to kill him if she didn't act fast. She looked around in panic, then stood up quickly. I need to find something, she said. Don't move. Jack smiled weakly, not planning to. Vera disappeared into the jungle, moving fast. She returned 20 minutes later. Her arms full of herbs and strange roots. Her hair was full of leaves. And her chest was rising fast from running. She knelt beside him and began mixing the herbs with water. Jack watched her through half-closed eyes. You look worried, he murmured. I am, she replied, pressing the mix on his wound. Jack winced, gripping her arm. That burns. Good, she said. It means you're still alive. He smiled faintly, then coughed. Her eyes softened as she held his hand. Why are you helping me so much? He asked. Vera paused, then said, because you're the first one who didn't look at me like a monster. Jack turned his head toward her. You're not a monster. You saved me, he added. And I trust you. Vera looked away, her face glowing slightly in the moonlight. No one's ever said that to me, she whispered. She dipped a cloth in water and placed it on his forehead. Her fingers brushed his skin gently. As if afraid to break him, Jack stared at her, his voice barely a breath. You're actually kind. Vera laughed once. A dry sound. Don't say that too loud, she said. I have a reputation. Jack smiled again, his eyes slowly closing. Wake me if something attacks, he mumbled. Vera sat beside him through the night. She didn't sleep, just watched him and listened to the forest. Every little noise made her tense. Every rustle of leaves made her grip her blade. She wasn't just protecting a mission anymore. She was protecting him when the sky turned gray with morning. Jack opened his eyes. His fever had gone down slightly, but he looked weak. Still alive? Vera asked, forcing a smile. Jack nodded slowly. Thanks to you. They didn't talk much as she fed him dried rations. Jack tried to chew, but his hands shook. Vera helped him drink water, her arm behind his back. Don't get used to this, she joked, trying to lighten the moment. Jack looked at her and whispered, too late. Vera froze for a second, then looked away. She stood up quickly, pretending to check her gear. We need to keep moving, she said, her voice tight. Jack tried to stand, but his legs gave out. Vera rushed forward and caught him in her arms. You're hopeless, she muttered, lifting him with ease. Jack rested his head against her shoulder. Guess you're stuck with me, he said. Vera sighed. Lucky me. As they moved down the hill, Jack asked, have you ever been cared for? Vera didn't answer at first, then said quietly, no. Then let me be the first, Jack whispered. Before sleep took him again, Vera looked down at him, her chest tight. She had fought in many battles, killed many enemies, but this carrying, a dying human who trusted her felt harder than all of it by the time they reached the bottom of the hill. They saw a broken structure ahead. It was the relay tower bent, covered in vines, but still standing. Vera's heart raced. If we can power it, we can call help. She said to herself. She laid Jack gently inside a broken section of wall. He didn't wake up this time. Vera touched his face. Her fingers, warm. Stay alive, she whispered. Don't make me lose you now. She turned to the control box, pulled out tools from her belt, and began to work. Sparks flew. Wires burned. But Vera didn't stop. This time, she wasn't fighting for credits or orders. She was fighting for him. Vera's hands moved fast as she fixed the broken relay tower. The wires were old, rusted, and half buried under moss. She cut through vines, twisted broken metal, and connected glowing energy cores. Her heart was beating fast, not just from the work, but from fear. Behind her, Jack lay still inside the ruined wall. His breathing was slow, and his face looked pale again. The herbs had helped, but not enough. She didn't send a signal soon. He wouldn't last much longer. Just as she finished attaching the final wire, the panel sparked. A faint hum rose from the base. Vera pressed a button. Nothing happened. She growled, hit the panel again, and suddenly a screen lit up. Signal available. It read in human language. Vera didn't wait. She pressed the distress beacon and opened a channel. This is Vera, Mercenary ID 72VK, she said, speaking. Clearly, I have a wounded human soldier requesting emergency extraction. There was no reply. She tried again. Repeat human soldier critical. Requesting urgent pickup. Still no answer. Vera clenched her fists. Come on, someone answer. Then, finally, static turned into a voice. This is Earth's command. Identify location. Vera gave the coordinates quickly. Not wasting time, the voice responded. Copy that. TTA 25 minutes. Hold position, Vera. Sighed in relief and turned back to Jack. We did it, she whispered, kneeling beside him. His lips moved slightly. Did someone hear? She nodded. They're coming. But the moment was broken by a sharp sound in the distance. Branches cracking. Footsteps running through the jungle. Vera's eyes widened. Someone else was here. She grabbed her weapon and rushed to the edge of the ruins. Through the trees, she saw dark shadows for alien hunters. They were mercenaries like her, but they weren't here to rescue. They had tracked her signal, and they wanted blood. One of them shouted, "There she is, the traitor." Vera ran back to Jack and covered his body with her own. He opened his eyes slowly. What's happening? We've got company, she said, pulling her gun. Stay here. Don't move, no matter what. She stepped out, standing between the attackers and the ruins. Rain started to fall again, cold and heavy. The first mercenary charged with a blade. Vera blocked it with her arm guard and kicked him backward. The second fired a pulse shot. Vera ducked and rolled to the side. She fired back, hitting him in the leg, but the third came from behind and tackled her to the ground. She grunted, twisting, and stabbed him with a hidden spike. The fourth was smart. He aimed for Jack instead. Vera saw it too late. No. She screamed, running toward him. She took the shot straight to her side, shielding Jack with her body. The pain was sharp and hot, burning into her ribs. She didn't stop. She turned, fired her last round, and hit the final enemy in the chest. All four mercenaries dropped to the ground. Unmoving, Vera collapsed beside Jack. Gasping for breath, blood dripped from her side. Mixing with the mud, Jack reached for her weakly. You're hurt. Vera smiled through the pain. You noticed? Why? Did you do that? He asked, his voice shaking. She touched his cheek gently. Because I chose you. No one ever chose me before, she added, her voice trembling. Jack held her hand tightly. "You're not allowed to die," he said softly. Vera laughed faintly. "That's your order, soldier." "Yes," he whispered. "That's an order." She closed her eyes. "Then I'll try." Above them, the sound of engines grew louder. A rescue shuttle broke through the trees, lights flashing. Human medics jumped out, rushing toward them. Vera tried to sit up, but Jack stopped her. "Let them help," he said. "You've done enough." She looked into his eyes one more time before passing out as the medics lifted her onto a stretcher. Jack whispered, "Don't leave me." The medic looked at him. "She make it." Jack nodded slowly, tears mixing with rain on his face. He looked up at the sky. And for the first time in a long time, he felt hope. Bright lights filled Vera's eyes as she woke up slowly. She blinked, confused. The white ceiling above her too clean, too quiet. Her side ached badly, and something beeped beside her head. She turned slowly and saw wires running into her arm. For a moment, panic rose in her chest. Then she heard a familiar voice, low and soft, "You're safe now." Jack whispered from the chair beside her bed. Vera looked at him, her vision still blurry. "You made it," she said. Jack smiled, tired but happy. "We both did." She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her body. Jack gently stopped her. "Take it slow." They were in a clean room made of steel and white glass, a small screen near. The bed showed her vitals. Human soldiers and doctors moved past the glass door outside. But inside the room, it was quiet. "You've been out for 2 days, Jack said. Vera blinked. 2 days. He nodded. "Your injury was serious, but they treated it." Vera looked down at her side, bandaged, stitched, healing. She looked at Jack again. "Why are you here?" Jack shrugged. "Because you didn't leave me behind. I wasn't about to leave you either," he added softly. Vera's lips curved into a weak smile. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just looked at each other, like there were too many words to say. Finally, Vera asked, "Where are we?" "Earth Outpost 47, Jack replied. Medical wing. Vera looked toward the door. Suddenly tense, "They let me in?" she asked. "Just like that?" Jack's face changed. His smile faded a little. "They weren't happy," he said. Quietly, Vera's heart sank. "They called you dangerous." Jack continued, "Said you were a risk. They wanted to question you. Maybe even lock you up." Vera closed her eyes, the hope fading from her chest. "But I told them the truth," Jack said quickly. "I told them you saved my life more than once. They watched the signal logs, the rescue data. I made them see who you really are." Vera opened her eyes again. "What did they say?" Jack smiled. "They agreed to let you recover here. But after that, they're still unsure." Vera nodded slowly. Of course, she had expected. This she was still the enemy to many. "Will they send me back?" she asked. Jack didn't answer right away. "I don't think they know what to do with you," he said. "You're not a prisoner. Not anymore. But you're not exactly a citizen either." Vera laughed once, dry and bitter. "Story of my life." Jack stood up and took her hand gently. "You don't have to go back," he said. "You can stay." Vera looked at him with wide eyes. "Stay." Jack nodded. "With me." Vera's heart skipped. "But I don't belong here," she whispered. "You belong wherever you're treated like a person," Jack replied. "Not a weapon, not a monster." Vera's fingers tightened around his hand. "I don't know how to live like that," she said. "Then we'll figure it out together." Jack replied. She blinked fast, looking away. "I'm not used to someone choosing me." Jack smiled. "Get used to it." A soft knock came from the door. A nurse stepped in and said gently, "Visiting time is over for now." Jack nodded. "I'll be back." He leaned down and whispered in Vera's ear, "You're not alone anymore." She watched him leave, her chest full of strange new feelings. warm, heavy, frightening, but not in a bad way. The door closed behind him, and Vera was left in silence. She stared at the ceiling, her hand still tingling from his touch. A small smile formed on her lips for the first time in her life. She felt wanted. Outside the room, the hallway buzzed. With life, some humans still stared at her with doubt, but some nodded in quiet respect. The word had spread, Dalian or not. Vera had saved one of their own. The war wasn't over, but maybe, just maybe, her battle to be seen had just begun. The days passed slowly in the quiet human base. Virus wounds healed under careful hands. She wore simple human clothes, now soft fabric. Unfamiliar but comfortable, Jack visited her every day, bringing food, stories, and quiet smiles. Vira found herself watching him more than she wanted. There was something about his kindness that made her heart beat faster. She still wasn't sure what it was: friendship, trust, or something deeper. But each time he smiled, she felt a little less alone. One afternoon, Vera stood by the window, looking out at the stars. Jack walked in quietly and stopped behind her. She felt his presence before she saw him. "Why do you keep looking at the sky?" he asked softly. Vera shrugged. "I'm wondering if there's a place for me here." Jack smiled. "There is if you want it." She turned to face him, her eyes glowing softly. "I don't know how to belong," she whispered. Jack reached out and took her hand gently. "You belong where someone sees your worth," he said. Vera blinked, a little embarrassed. "You're the only one who ever did." Jack laughed. "Well, I'm pretty good at seeing worth." She smiled, a real warm smile this time. Then she did something unexpected. She tried on a human jacket she found in her room. It was too small, tight across her broad shoulders. But she liked it. Suddenly, Jack walked in by mistake, catching her mid-pose. Aru's cheeks turned bright red. "No peeking, human." She snapped, covering herself quickly. Jack laughed, holding up his hands. "I swear I wasn't trying to." She rolled her eyes but didn't hide her smile. That moment broke the last walls between them. They spent more time together, sharing stories from their worlds. Vera learned about human music, food, and laughter. Jack learned about alien battles, honor, and pain. One night, as they sat watching the twin moons rise, Vera whispered, "I'm scared to trust again." Jack took her hand. "You don't have to be, because I'm here," he said firmly. She looked at him, tears shining in her eyes. "I'm not just some soldier or mercenary anymore." She said, "You're my friend," Jack said softly. "Maybe more someday." Vera laughed through her tears. "We'll see." The war outside still raged. But inside the base, they had found something rare: hope, connection, and maybe love. Vera no longer felt alone in the cold universe. With Jack by her side, she felt ready for whatever came next. And as the stars shone brightly above them, Vera whispered one last time with a shy smile, "No peeking, human." Jack smiled back. "Never."